What's up, stackers? Today we're going to build a super simple auto smelter inside of this 2x1 starter base. For the basic setup, you're going to need one large solar panel, one small battery, one large box, one furnace, one industrial conveyor, and two storage adapters. You can see the list of ingredients up here at the top. It's pretty simple though, other than maybe the tech trash. You're also going to need 4 more HQM for the wrench and wire tools, which we'll need for this setup. To get started, place your solar panel on the outside of your base, really anywhere. Should probably face it north, but that's up to you. And then grab your wire tool and connect to the electric output of the solar panel and do a nice clean wire to your base. Try to hide it if you can. You might want to put the solar panel in a bush. Then go back in your base, grab your small battery, and set it wherever you'd like. You can hold Shift to try out the new snapping features. Then go back to your wire tool and connect to the power in of your battery. Next, place your large box where you'd like your materials to go in and out of. I'll show you an expanded version as well later on. Then grab the furnace and find a good spot for that. Again, you can hold Shift to snap it. Next, take your storage adapters and attach one to the top of the furnace and the other one to the large box that you'd like to use for your materials. Next, grab the industrial conveyor and place it on the wall. Next, grab your wrench tool and go over to your materials box. On the storage adapter, connect to the industrial out option. Now go ahead and pipe that over to your industrial conveyor. Connect this pipe to the industrial input of the industrial conveyor. Now use your wrench to connect to the industrial output option on the industrial conveyor, and pipe this over to the furnace. Connect to the industrial in of the furnace. Next, connect to the industrial out of the furnace with the pipe tool, and pipe this back to your materials box. But this time, connect it to the industrial in option on the storage adapter. Now, our raw materials will come out of this box, go into the furnace, and then come out of the furnace and go back to the box. We just need to finish wiring things together. So select your wire tool and go over to the small battery and connect to the power output option. Go ahead and wire this over to the industrial conveyor. We're going to connect it to the power in option on the industrial conveyor. Now we can just turn it on. Notice that nothing's happening right now because we don't have anything in our materials box. So let's add some metal ore and some wood. You'll notice that we see the materials going through the industrial conveyor, but still nothing's happening. That's because in this super simple setup, we do have to turn on the furnace. So if we turn it on, it'll start going, and it'll go until we run out of wood. So we could just keep filling this box up with more wood, and it won't turn off until it either runs out of wood or until we shut it off. One simple solution is to just use an igniter, and you can put the igniter somewhere within the range of your furnace, then grab your wire tool and connect from the filter pass option on the industrial conveyor and wire that over to the igniter, to the power in. Now, if we turn this on and if we put some materials in the box, you'll notice that our igniter now ignites the furnace. But the problem is that it just stays like this, and we have this crazy spark action going on pretty much forever. So that's not the best option. What you can do if you're using regular furnaces is you can actually just put an igniter in the room and then put a button somewhere next to it and attach with the wire tool the power out from the button to the power in of the igniter. Turn off this furnace. Then when you hit the button, it lights any furnaces in the area. And you guys can use timers and whatever you want to try and automate when the wood goes in, but honestly, this is the easiest it gets. Whenever you see, oh, my furnaces are off, if you know there's wood in there, you just go boom, and they all light up. Okay, so that's the simple solution. Another limitation of this simple setup is that we're only using one box, the same for the input and output materials. To fix that, we could grab our pipe tool and we could disconnect from the industrial in of this storage adapter. We could then grab another storage adapter, place that on the second chest that we'd like to maybe now use as the output, then grab our pipe tool and go back to the furnace and pipe out from the industrial out of the furnace into the new box. Now you'll notice the output materials go into this box. And guys, I just want to mention that when you add a second box to your system, you also need to add a second conveyor, which I show you how to do a little bit later on in the video. So just keep watching for that. Oh, you want to use an electric furnace? Super simple. Let's remove the old one, first by taking the storage adapter, and then emptying and removing the furnace itself. Now we'll set down our electric furnace. And then we can just grab our wire tool, and we'll wire out of the pass-through from the industrial conveyor. And we'll just wire this right into the furnace. Now, obviously, we could add a switch here as well so we can switch the furnace on and off, but we don't really need it as long as you have enough power. So now we'll take our storage adapter, and we'll attach it to the electric furnace. We'll grab our pipe tool, and we'll pipe first the industrial out, over to our output box, and then we'll go over to our industrial conveyor and we'll go to the industrial output. And we'll pipe that back over to the furnace to the industrial input. We put some raw materials in our box. Notice that we're cooking. And at first glance, guys, you may be frustrated to notice that it only fills one slot here in the furnace. But let me tell you a little secret about Rust that not many people know. Look how fast this is going. Oh, I could almost time it. Now let me split this. Oh, it's going half the speed. So it doesn't matter, guys. You can put it all in this one and it will go twice the speed. You're going to smelt things just as fast. So don't worry about that. But they will both fill up if you have enough resources. All right, guys, let's talk about adding multiple furnaces to the system. This will work with regular furnaces or electric furnaces, but if you're using electric furnaces, you're going to need an electrical splitter as well. But for both setups, you're just going to need an industrial combiner and an industrial splitter, and then obviously your furnaces, and then the storage adapters to attach to those furnaces. So let's go ahead and place the furnaces first. We can just place them next to our first furnace. Now we'll go ahead and we'll place their adapters too while we're at it. Now since we're using electric furnaces, we will place the electrical splitter. And we'll finish the electrical, so we're just going to go to the furnace that's already connected and we're going to right-click with our wire tool to disconnect it from the conveyor. Now we'll go to the pass-through of the conveyor and we'll just wire that over to our electrical splitter. And we'll attach each one of the power outs to each one of the furnaces. Okay, so our electrical is done. You can see that they're all powered up. We could use a branch, obviously, in our system to make our power more efficient. If you're going to be attaching other electrical devices, you're probably going to want to do that, but I'm just not showing that because we don't need it. So now we need to do our piping. So first, let's go ahead and place our industrial combiner and our industrial splitter on the wall. So for the combining, what we want is we're going to combine our resources when they leave the furnace. So we can put that maybe somewhere over here. We'll face it like this. And then for the splitter, we want to split the materials as they go into the furnaces. So we'll put this more over here. So now we'll grab our wrench tool and we'll first disconnect from the original furnace that's connected to the industrial conveyor. So we'll right click and we'll clear that. Now we'll go back to our industrial conveyor, we'll go to the industrial output, and we're going to pipe that over and into the industrial in of the splitter. This is the industrial splitter, and we're going to pipe each one of these to each one of our furnaces. So the industrial out 1 can go to industrial in of that furnace, industrial out 2. We'll go to this furnace, and industrial out 3 will come over here to the last furnace. Great. Now we need to pipe out of these furnaces and into the combiner and then into our final storage. So right now we have this industrial out going to our wood box. Let's right click and clear that. And now we'll pipe this back up into our combiner. We'll put this in the first slot, or the top slot, I suppose. Now we'll go over here to our industrial out. Into the next slot. those three piped up, we will now grab the industrial out. We'll pipe it into our box. So if we check our output box, let's take everything out of there. And let's add some raw materials into our drop box. We don't even need wood anymore, obviously, since we're using electric furnaces. If we take a look at the furnaces, each one of them is being filled equally because of the industrial splitter. It splits things equally. But notice, guys, we have a problem, and that is right now we're just pulling out raw ore. So we're putting it in the furnace and then pulling it out. And it doesn't look like the metal is going anywhere. That's because as soon as you add a second box in the system, as we did for the output, we need to add a second conveyor. You could actually run a 3-furnace setup using the splitters with a single box and it would all work fine. But as soon as you add a second output box, you need to add another conveyor. And I do apologize for not mentioning that earlier, but what we'll do is we'll attach the conveyor over here next to our output. Now we'll go ahead and we'll use our pipe tool to disconnect this industrial out from the combiner. And we'll attach that back over now to the conveyor. We're going to attach it to the industrial input of the conveyor. Now before we connect the output, let's set the filters. For this, we only want smelted materials. So that would be metal fragments, high quality metal, and sulfur. So now that we have that set, we'll click apply here. We can pipe this into the output box. Now we can just grab our wire tool and we're going to do something a little bit different. It's going to seem crazy, but we're going to disconnect the power into the old industrial conveyor by right-clicking. Go back to our battery and we're going to attach that now to the power in of the new conveyor. And this one will go to the pass-through. We'll connect pass-through to the power in of the old industrial conveyor. And this just makes it so that we don't have to add an electrical branch into the system. We can still have our furnaces hooked up. We can have both conveyors hooked up. So let's turn them both on. Let's check our output box. So here we go. Let's remove everything, see what's happening in this output box now. Aha! You can see we're successfully only pulling the final smelted ore, so the regular metal ore now stays in our furnaces. Now guys, with electric furnaces, I mentioned using a switch, so let's add that real quick. Now this is dealer's choice, guys. You can add the switch right here, which will only turn off the furnaces, or you could add the switch right before this industrial conveyor, which is kind of what I want to do, to make it so that we turn on and off the entire system. So we add our switch to the wall. Now we're going to go to the power in of this conveyor. We're going to disconnect it. We're going to go back to the battery. We're going to connect our battery now to the switch, to the power in of the switch, and we'll connect the power out of the switch over to this conveyor. Excuse my wires. It's just horrible, isn't it? So now we can hit turn on the switch. We'll turn on the whole system. If we go over and we hit turn off, it turns off the entire system. So guys, look, this is a 2x1 starter base. And let me just show you. Sheet metal double door, guys. Fits over all that piping and wiring. You've got it all going in there. So you've got your furnaces processing out here, but your raw materials are mainly all in there, and your finished materials are mainly all in there in a 2x1. Look at this production facility that you've made in your starter base. And by the way, guys, now that you're producing materials like crazy, you're gonna need a way to organize it. So check out this video right here where I show you a super simple loot organization set up using a Dropbox for a simple 2x1 starter base just like this one. I hope you found the video helpful, everyone. That's all I have for you for today. I'm Stack Runner, and I'll see you in the next one.